10 years or so ago. And this was the last state that remained with any sort of ban or restriction. All of this began back in the mid 90s, and it was propelled by both politicians and boxing pundits. One of the more famous politicians was a former presidential candidate and Senator John McCain. He effectively campaigned and was at the helm of the movement that ultimately led to 35 states banning the sport. Now, this also included a ban on pay-per-views. On the opposite side of the country, or on the other side of the country, there was a governor by the name of George Pataki who appointed former world boxing champion Floyd Patterson to oversee the New York State Athletic Commission. Now, between the two of them, they spearheaded the initiative, which ultimately led to the banning of the sport. Now, in terms of some of the more famous influence that came from the boxing pundits, we have a gentleman by the name of Lou DiBella, who not only was a boxing promoter, but he was also at the helm of HBO Sports between the late 80s and the late 90s. We know that this was a very influential period because this coincides also with the timing in which Dana White and the Fertitta brothers acquired the UFC, again being crippled by no pay-per-views, 30 plus states banning the sport. So what was the UFC or how was the UFC going to sustain itself? Now, Lou DiBella famously debated Joe Rogan back in 2007, where he effectively called the sport human cockfighting, and Joe Rogan was successful in predicting the rise of the sport, and seeing where we are now, that aged like fine wine when it comes to that debate. Now, in terms of an economical, revenue generation for the state, what did that look like for the state of New York? Well, prior to 2016, when the ban was still in effect, the New York State Athletic Commission raised close to $60 million in revenue. Now, in 2016 through 2018, New York generated nearly $97 million in revenue. Now, $32 million of that was a product of MMA. I have not been able to look and find anything related to what the economical impact looks like today, but just off of those 2 years, it nearly was 1/3 of the economic revenue generated by combat sports in the state. So I will leave it there, guys. Please drop a comment, a follow, like, and subscribe. This is Sunrise Sports and MMA. Out.